Science fiction, a genre that basically covers everything, from the epic space operas such as Star Wars and Carve the Mark, to the more subtle The Comic Seekers, to The Machine, which is fantastic, by the way, read this, the Wall series, David Mitchell, The Bone Clock, and Cloud Atlas, Found and Spare Parts, Time Travelling with a Hamster, Philip K. Dick's Blade Runner, aka Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Science fiction is a huge and open book, excuse the pun, of genres and of styles and of toys and settings. And I read a book that a friend got me from Norcom this dusk. So this is a phenomenal read by a writer, and I can't wait to get my teeth into number 2. I've literally eaten this book over the course of a few days, and I highly rate it. It's phenomenal. It's indie published, and yeah, it's good. It's very good, and it's science fiction. I would describe this as epic science fiction. It's science fiction in the traditional sense, other worlds, spaceships, people, planets, and it's like, ooh. So yeah, I got my teeth into this, and I want to say a big thank you to Fiona for getting this for me, because it's so good, and I'm going to put a link in the doobly-doo if you guys want to purchase the book off of Amazon. So there we go. Science fiction is an art form. Science fiction can be done so well, and I've read, for every amazing piece of science fiction I've read, I have read some very terrible science fiction, especially really bad science fiction books by certain YouTubers. We all know that one. Science fiction is also very hard to get right. I think it's one of those genres, to understand and write science fiction, you have to read science fiction. And that's where a lot of writers go wrong. As someone that's attempted to write science fiction, my short story I wrote is very much set on the Earth. There's two, but they're both set on the Earth. They're both grounded in something familiar, where science fiction can go completely off on a tangent and go completely, you can go as crazy as you want. Take The Fifth Element, for example. Fantastic film. Science fiction is a genre that you either love or hate, but a lot of people read science fiction without realising. A lot of people I know read The Machine and The Comic Seekers and didn't realise it was science fiction. It's a very realistic set. It's a very more realistic, subtle science fiction, but it's still science fiction. A lot of people didn't realise that these were also technically science fiction, although they're classed as also dystopian. A lot of people I know like David Mitchell and didn't realise the science fiction elements of his novels come through, especially these two. Science fiction also exists in children's genre. For example, The Time Travelling with a Hamster is a science fiction book. A very sweet and charming science fiction book. Science fiction is there to pull you in. It will either pull you in and you'll see the world reflected on you, or you will see a new world reflected back at you. You will either read it and go, wow, other races, other people, other this, other that, or you will go, oh god, what is this? Or it will echo what you are seeing. Science fiction can be subtle, it can be mind-blowing, it can be a little element in a much bigger story. Where a lot of people attempting to write science fiction go very wrong, is they don't read it. They don't watch it, they don't read it. To quote a writer of a terrible science fiction book, "Oh, I used to watch Firefly as a child." Firefly is more of a Western in terms of tone. Though it is science fiction, it's actually probably got more in common with a Western than a conventional science fiction story. And then you have science fantasy, which is a whole other thing. So science fiction as a whole is this massive deep dive into it, and I could make an hour-long video about science fiction and go, well, this is science fiction, this is this is that, and actually it's also a subjective genre. H.G. Wells' The Time Machine is science fiction, which not many people realise. War of the Worlds is science fiction. Science fiction is probably one literary genre that really is just an open door. You have very light science fiction, very intense science fiction, you have everything in between, you have genres crossing over. It can be YA, it can be adult, it can be whatever you want it to be. If you're going to write science fiction, read science fiction, watch science fiction, get immersed into a science fiction world before you put pen to paper. I wrote a short story for a contest that was about a digital apocalypse set after the end of the world, but not an end of the world of Terminator style, more technology stopped working. And the people that suddenly managed to have technology were people that were wealthy. They were managing new technology, but the people, everyday people, didn't have it and were almost thrust back into time. The other one I wrote was about the aliens bringing back humans after a mass extinction. Remember, science fiction is an open door, and you need to go into it and you need to deep dive into the genre. Science fiction is not just space battles and spaceships and aliens. It can be something closer to home, or it can be something far away from home. So what are your favourite science fiction novels? I'm quite interested in hearing this, because it will be fascinating to find out. And yeah, please like and subscribe and comment, because I want to know what you guys are reading, as always. So what are your favourite science fiction? And what's your least favourite science fiction as well? That's an interesting question.